Good morning, my friends. Hope you are well, hope you're cheerful, hope you've had a good weekend, and thank you for being with us today and joining us for our Bible reflection for today. Joining us for the exciting, and it is exciting, isn't it, book of 1 Samuel and chapter 19 we're in today. So, as you know from previous chapters, Saul is on the down and David's on the rise, and Saul is very wound up, very insecure, very jealous, and things are going from bad to worse. So here we go. Fasten your seatbelts, everybody. 1 Samuel chapter 19. Saul spoke with his son Jonathan and all his servants about killing David. But Saul's son Jonathan took great delight in David. Jonathan told David, "My father Saul is trying to kill you. Therefore be on guard tomorrow morning. Stay in a secret place and hide yourself. I will go out and stand beside my father in the field where you are, and I will speak to my father about you. If I learn anything, I will tell you." Jonathan spoke well of David to his father, saying to him, "The king should not sin because of his servant David, because he's not sinned against you, and because his deeds have been of good service to you. For he took his life in his hand when he attacked the Philistine, and the Lord brought about a great victory to all Israel. You saw it and rejoiced. Why then will you sin against an innocent person by killing David without cause?" Saul heeded the voice of Jonathan. Saul swore, "As the Lord lives, he shall not be put to death." So Jonathan called David and related all these things to him. Jonathan then brought David to Saul, and he was in his presence as before. Again there was war, and David went out to fight the Philistines. He launched a heavy attack on them, so they fled before him. Then an evil spirit from the Lord came upon Saul as he sat in his house with his spear in his hand while David was playing music. Saul sought to pin David to the wall with the spear, but he eluded Saul, so he struck the spear into the wall. David fled and escaped that night. Saul sent messengers to David's house to keep watch over him, planning to kill him in the morning. David's wife, Michal, told him, "If you do not save your life tonight, tomorrow you will be killed." So Michal let David down through the window. He fled away and escaped. Michal took an idol and laid it on the bed, put a net of goat's hair on its head, and covered it with the clothes. When Saul sent messengers to take David, she said, "He's sick." Then Saul sent the messengers to see David for themselves. He said, "Bring him up to me in the bed, that I may kill him." Then the messengers came in, the idol was in the bed, and the covering of goat's hair on its head. Saul said to Michal, "Why have you deceived me like this, and let my enemy go, so that he has escaped?" Michal answered Saul, "He said to me, 'Let me go, why should I kill you?'" Now David fled and escaped. He came to Samuel at Ramah and told him all that Saul had done to him. He and Samuel went and settled at Naioth. Saul was told, "David is at Naioth in Ramah." Then Saul sent messengers to take David. When they saw the company of the prophets in the frenzy, with Samuel standing in charge of them, the Spirit of God came upon the messengers of Saul, and they also fell into prophetic frenzy. When Saul was told, he sent other messengers. They also fell into a frenzy. Saul sent messengers again into the third time. They also fell into a frenzy. Then he himself went to Ramah. He came to the great well that is in Secu. He asked, "Where are Samuel and David?" And someone said, "They're at Naioth in Ramah." He went there towards Naioth in Ramah, and the Spirit of God came upon him. As he was going, he fell into a prophetic frenzy until he came to Naioth in Ramah. He too stripped off his clothes, and he too fell into frenzy before Samuel. He lay naked all that day and all that night. Therefore it is said, "Is Saul also among the prophets?" And this is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Interesting chapter. There's bits in there I don't understand, but here we go. I'll give my best to explain it. Firstly, to say, in the first, as I say, you've got David's clearly on the rise, God's clearly with him, and Saul is clearly on the wane. But what is quite interesting at the beginning, I think, in the first sort of verses 1 to 7, is the situation that Jonathan finds himself in. Jonathan's is caught between we might say, the devil and the deep blue sea. On the one hand, Saul is his father, and he's loyal to him. I mean, Saul is the king, and he is loyal to the king, quite rightly too. On the other hand, you can see that Saul's kind of gone off on one, and that he's trying to kill David, and he's wrong to do so. And Jonathan is kind of caught between the middle here. He's caught between his father and his friend. He's also caught between what he's doing wrong and what he's doing right. He's caught between what he's doing, what is safe and convenient, and doing what is dangerous, yet kind of the right thing to do. And I think it's worth acknowledging that in life and in the Christian life, sometimes we are faced with moral dilemmas. And sometimes it's complicated, and sometimes it's risky and has consequences. And that being a Christian is not always a convenient thing to do. Sometimes being a Christian means doing what is right, even though it's not convenient and good for us. And I think Jonathan here is a great example of what you might call godly diplomacy. So he's still loyal to his father, but he warns David, look, my dad's trying to kill you. And he also tries to, at the same time, he also goes to Saul and explains, look, why are you doing this? David's helpful. David's making your kingdom bigger. David's a loyal servant. Why are you doing this? So Jonathan is a great example here of kind of godly diplomacy and kind of what to do sometimes when you're caught between doing what's right and what's wrong, between sometimes family and sometimes friends, sometimes what is morally right and morally wrong, but convenient, sometimes doing what is safe and what is dangerous. And it's difficult sometimes. And I think Jonathan's a great example here, or you might call godly diplomacy. That's the first bit. Then, of course, there's war again. And David does his usual thing, goes out, leads the people, and wins a great victory against the Philistines. But was Saul happy about it? Most definitely not. Next time David is playing, as Jonathan said would happen, Saul is lying there and he happens to have a spear in his hand. Strange things people do. And he decides to throw it at David as he's playing, and David ducks, dives, quickly gets out of the way, the spear goes in the wall, and David kind of gets the impression, yes, Jonathan's right, Saul is trying to kill me, and he goes away. And the next few verses, kind of 11 to 17, are also interesting because David, as you know, is married to Michal, who is a female, who is married, even called Michal, is married to, and she is also Saul's son. So she's married to the daughter of the king. And quite interesting here is that Michal also realizes that Saul is trying to kill her husband, and does what in James Bond films they call the three-pillar trick. So Saul goes off on one again, and despite having said, I'm not going to kill David, goes off, sends people to do exactly that. And then Michal, of course, puts these idols. What she's doing with idols, I do not know. Anyway, puts these idols in the bed so it looks like a person, and tries to fool the people, and lets David down through the window and sees David off. The men come looking for him, can't find him, and Saul's really angry. But I think the interesting thing here is the way it's kind of going with Saul. I mean, he really is losing on every department here. His reputation is lower than David's. His son Jonathan is also, in a sense, he's loyal to David now. And even his daughter Michal, who he'd sent to marry David, he had to do a dangerous thing to get Michal in the first place to David. And also Michal was put there by Saul in the hope that she'd be a spy in the camp to kind of undermine David. She turns out to be loyal to David as well. So things really are closing in on Saul. And so then we get to the third bit, the bit that I find I don't understand. David understandably runs away to Ramah, where old man Samuel is. And David goes to see Samuel and explains the situation. And then Samuel gets together with the prophets, and clearly they have what is a whale of a prayer time. I mean, it's a prophetic frenzy. I mean, I don't know what kind of prayer time that looks like, but they're all naked by the sound of it. Who knows? But they're clearly having a whale of a prayer time. And everyone that comes, and Saul hears that David's run away to Ramah, and so not to be outdone, he spends people after chase after David to kill him. And everyone that goes there goes into the prophetic frenzy as well, gets into the prayer time. And even Saul gets into the prayer time too. I can't pretend to understand this, but clearly God is at work. And by God being at work, Saul's men do not kill David. So in a sense, you've got David being protected by Jonathan, Saul's son, being protected by Michal, Saul's daughter, by his own skill in ducking and weaving when the spear gets thrown at him. And finally here in these verses, because these other people, including all Saul's men, and now Saul himself, ends up in a prophetic time with God, that David's saved as well. But I think the bit I always wonder with this, because I don't really understand the bit at the end, and maybe somebody else does, and that'd be great, is really Saul, was there no way that Saul could have just said, okay, you know, once upon a time, I was first found looking for sheep. Could you not have gone to God and said, look, I'm very, very sorry. Can we just calm everything down? You know, okay, if David's about a king, you know, could Saul not have somehow repented, gone back, formed some arrangement, you know, made friends with David before it got to this? I think Jesus was right when he talked about turning the other cheek. And sometimes in life, in public life, in personal life, in church life, if only somebody would just take the initiative and say, okay, that's enough, enough's enough. I'm not going to take it any further. I'm going to say so. I'm going to make friends. I'm not going to take this to the next stage. And I believe often a lot of problems in Christian life, in church life, in personal life, in, you know, a lot of things will be talked down. If only we had the ability sometimes to say, okay, I'm not going to take this any further. That's what I think it means by turning the other cheek sometimes, and it's a good lesson for us to learn. My friends, I hope you found that helpful. God bless you. Thank you so much for watching. More later this week. Have a lovely day. Enjoy your Tuesday. Thanks for watching. God bless, and have a good day.